Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
a modern witch's spoken word grimoire,
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense,
your cauldron and your crystals,
and join us
as we get
Back on the Broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. I'm Layla, and on this episode, we're continuing our elemental magic series with the element of air. Air is the breath, the life giver. It's associated with communication, with movement, with beginnings, with intelligence, and so much more.
And I'm Chelle, and I'm an air sign. This ought to be fun.
Yes, that's right. I'm also an air sign. Chelle is a Gemini.
And Layla is an Aquarius.
So we are both pretty airy, but we agreed not to say airheads last episode, so I won't go there.
We did agree. So pull yourself back off that. But first, before we dive into air, I just wanted to talk about real quick something that we mentioned last episode during our Earth episode. We want to make sure that we're clear and that this is put out there. We have a contest.
And it's called Seasons of the Witch. How much cooler can it get?
Seriously, because really we are approaching the season of the witch and pumpkin spice.
I like to think all seasons are seasons of the witch, but there's one in particular that comes to mind.
Yep.
Also, we would like it known that if you are one of our benefactors donate monthly to help keep the podcast on the air. First of all, thank you so freaking much.
Love you. And guess what, benefactors? Guess what?
You are also automatically entered.
Boom.
Yes, you get an entry just for being a benefactor. And if you do send us a letter that's postmarked between August 8th and October 1st, you can get an extra entry.
Oh, a twofer.
A twofer. But only benefactors can get more than one entry. Everybody else, Chelle has some details for you.
So we're going to give this away to anyone who sends us mail at our P.O. Box, which, by the way, Back on the Broomstick, P.O. Box 106, Salem, Massachusetts, 01970. But we want to remind our listeners, we are giving this away to anybody who sends us mail between August 8th and October 1st, and this is not restricted to United States residents. So no matter what country you are in, if you send us mail, we will enter you in for the drawing to win.
The contest is for the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. This is provided by Chelle and myself, and yes, we will absolutely be sending that to whoever wins. Send us a letter, a postcard, drop a line in the mail, whatever it happens to be, but make sure it has your name and your mailing address.
Clearly stated, please.
That's right. Make sure we can read it very clearly. You could also put your email address in there if you'd like, just in case we can't find your address. We promise we won't put you on any type of mailing list, witchy or otherwise.
We're not that organized.
No, we're not. These addresses are only for the giveaway of the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. And so thank you guys.
And we'll talk about this the closer we get, but I might have a little extra surprise up my sleeve for the winner. Stay tuned for clues. This is going to be like an Easter egg thing from Taylor Swift, I swear. Stay tuned for clues, and as we get closer, I will reveal little tidbits of what maybe those extras could be.
Chelle and I are huge fans of giveaways, so I can tell you definitively that the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle is not going to be the only thing in the box. So.
It's not, and I love it.
So make sure you send us a letter to our P.O. Box. Again, Back on the Broomstick, P.O. Box 106, Salem, Massachusetts, 01970. And if you're a benefactor, as long as you become a benefactor before October 1st, you are also entered into the drawing.
Do I get to enter?
No, absolutely
Damn
not.
it.
So the drawing will be held October 10th.
Because our goal, also, I just want to add, our goal is to have this Seasons of the Witch Oracle deck in your hands prior to Samhain so that you can do a Samhain pull.
Although, if you are out of the country, I can't guarantee
you'll
get there.
Extra time.
Hopefully you'll have it before Yule.
Exactly.
All right, so we're here to talk about more elemental energy. What are we talking about today, Chelle?
We're talking about air, Layla. And I find I have such a love-hate with air. So I did want to kind of talk about that for a second because I know that sometimes folks have a hard time connecting with a particular element. And for being an air sign, I feel like I have a hard time connecting with the air element. It's just strange to me.
Sometimes I wonder if people have trouble with it because it's invisible. It's hard to see. And so sometimes I think that that makes it a little more mysterious for people. But I'm such a words witch that air's always been kind of easy for me. I can't shut up. I mean, I
Well,
have a podcast because I can't stop talking.
I'm a communicator.
That's right.
I'm a
There you go.
communicator. But I think when I think of air, I think you're right. There's nothing like with fire, you focus on the flame, and with water, you've got the water there. And with earth, you're deep into the dirt. And with air, it's like this invisible gas that you are. Is it here? Is it not here? I know I'm breathing it, but you
Ooh,
know,
ooh. Okay, there you go. And that's what I usually tell my students is breathing it. I really
yeah.
like to bring it back to the breath because that's so fundamental and that's something that we can control and that we can actually feel very easily. So bringing it back to breath and communication is very important, I think, when talking about the air energy.
And I think that speaking of breath, that is a good focal point when working with air, at least for me, because it's the one thing that I can kind of quantify that air with. I'm breathing, it must be there. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? But
Yeah,
like the communication, it's also kind of for me thoughts. I know sometimes people will cross thoughtfulness between air and fire, but I kind of look at fire more as action and air as the thought you've put into it prior to that
me
action.
too. Yeah, and water is more the subconscious thought, not
Right,
necessarily
right,
active thought like air
right,
is to me. Yeah.
right. So I think of that as a very deeply thoughtful and communicative element and kind of a correspondence to the element.
Yeah, and another way that people can connect with it is communication also means intuition. It means talking to your ancestors. It means divination. So when you're casting runes, when you're pulling tarot cards, all of this is very deeply entwined with elemental air. Your intuition, your divination, all of these messages coming to you are coming to you very strongly through air, through that element.
And also creativity, I think of air as well. And I think it's just kind of that when I think of air, I have that like almost whimsical view. And so I feel that when I'm thinking of creativity in that artistic manner or inspiration in potentially an
Yes.
artistic manner, I'm thinking that is an air quality.
Yeah, air is very much about intellect and creativity. It's about learning something new. It's springtime. And we talked before about air being associated with east and with the dawn. And even if you don't necessarily associate air with the direction of east, air is still very often associated with new beginnings, like the freshness of a spring breeze, a breath of fresh air. People will talk about the breath of inspiration or intuition. So it's very deeply connected to those new beginning ideas, even if you don't connect it to dawn.
And also, each of the elements is associated with different season, and dawn is kind of represented by that spring season, that
Yeah.
awakening, the dawn of the seasons. The winter has pulled back, things are starting to grow, things are starting to pop up, and that is also kind of the airs aspect of the wheel.
Air is definitely communication, and spells are part of communication. Ritual is communication. Chanting is communication. All of these I associate with the element air. So, to work this into your practice, what are some ways that you like to work with air in your practice?
Breath work is probably the first thing. Not so much now, but back in the day, chanting as well. I don't know how I kind of pulled away a little bit from chants and chanting, but back in the day, I would have said chanting as well. Yeah. But breath work is a big one.
I absolutely love chanting for raising energy. And especially because air lends itself very easily to a cyclone, to a tornado type visualization of energy. So if you pull air in with the idea that you want to raise it up into a cone of power and direct it to something, your brain, your magical brain will very easily connect the idea of drawing in air energy, whipping it into a cycle, a spiral, a tornado, and then pushing it to your target. So that's a very easy visualization for your brain to hold on to. So you can pull air energy in that way towards whatever purpose that you have, especially using a chant, and then whip it into that spiral. It just makes it easier.
Air is also easily worked with for me anyway during storms. When
Mm,
that wind is whipping, circling back to what I said before, it's almost like because it's whipping, it's quantified and I can feel it, therefore it exists,
right, right.
But the way thoughts can travel in the wind, the way ideas can travel in the wind, I feel that sometimes air is also a courier to the next step. The air will carry you, the wind will carry you on to the next step. So I look at it almost as like a vehicle of change.
Ooh, I like that. And air is a great way to carry messages to the universe. A lot of people talk about burning something, and I know that's fire, but the smoke, the idea is the smoke from what you burned carries your message off through the air to the universe. The same goes for if you're burning incense, the smoke of that incense as an offering goes up through the air. So, yeah, there's a little fire involved, but like we mentioned last episode, not very much that you'll find in the world is pure one thing or pure another.
Now, I had to make sure I pointed this out at some point in the episode, and this is a good time. So, do you know what a one air tool would possibly be?
A wand,
Okay, you
a
are correct.
journal.
Ah, you always have to take it there.
I
Keep
do, I
going.
do. A feather,
Keep going.
incense.
And okay, a broomstick, Layla. A broomstick.
Oh, yeah, brooms are fantastic as a magical air tool.
I've always kind of had that be an air tool. I don't know, maybe that's just a weird
It's
way of
very
thinking.
wand-like. Brooms are very wand-like, and then they
Yeah,
sweep things away. I love it.
but
Yeah, brooms are
also,
great as air.
but when you think of a witch on a broom in the night sky, she is using her broom to fly through the air.
That's right. I love
Yeah, so I've
that.
always associated brooms with air.
If you sweep out a room, you can actually sweep out the negative energy to clear the air.
Yep.
So that works great.
And of course, there's different associations and different correspondences. Obviously, like you said, feathers. I'm always thinking of birds, or my favorite dragonflies always make me think of air.
And bees too. I love the folk practice of whispering to the bees, telling them messages that they will carry to our beloved dead. And those are all properties of air.
Yep. As far as magical workings, I would say my biggest thing, air specific, is going to be the breath work.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it back to breathwork because I really did want to talk about that. A few times when we've talked about meditations and things in the past, we've talked about box breathing, where you concentrate on your breath. A lot of traditions will have you concentrate on the breath because it is part of life. It is so vital to life. And so by respecting your breath and by paying attention to your breath, not only are you honoring the element of air, but you're honoring life itself.
Right.
Box breathing is breathing in for a count of four, holding your breath for a count of four, breathing out for a count of four, and then holding your breath again for a count of four, and then continuing to do that. And that's just one of many different ways that you can pay attention to your breath and really connect with that energy and also use that to raise energy for spell work.
What do you do to kind of connect with air specifically?
Incense is a big one for me. I do love to have incense and nice smelling things.
That's a given.
I also have a lot of plants in my house. And the rooms where I particularly have a lot of plants, I feel like the air is nicer there. And so sometimes if I'm doing a meditation, especially one that involves a lot of breath work, I like to work maybe in my living room where I have a ton of plants, or in this one corner of my office where I have a nice window and a lot of plants. And that really helps me to feel like I'm connecting not just with air, but with elemental energy in general.
I like that. And I've never looked at plants as an air thing, so interesting perspective that I'm going to ponder.
In the elemental earth meditation that we posted not too long ago, one of the things I talked about was breathing in harmony with the trees.
Right.
And even though that was an earth meditation, getting you connected to the earth and to trees, the idea of breathing with a plant is very air based. Because when you breathe out, the carbon dioxide you breathe out is what the plant breathes in. And the plant breathes out oxygen that you then breathe in. So just thinking about that symbiosis, that cycle between you and the natural world while you're sitting in your plant corner or whatever, that is a beautiful air meditation and a beautiful way to work with that energy.
I think it's another example of how something such as trees or plants can be under dual elements.
Oh, yeah, everything's everything else. We talked about in the Earth episode where the idea of these building blocks of life came from. And we know now there's how many elements on the periodic table, but
A lot.
a lot. Our ancestors only thought there were five.
There's more than when we were in ninth grade. How about that?
That's right. And they literally thought that the only pure things were dirt, earth, air that's all around us, water, and fire. They thought
Fire.
those were the only pure things, and everything else was made up in some way of all of those things and then powered by ether or spirit. So nothing's really purely just one or
One thing or the other. Yeah. So, Layla, let's kind of just jump a little bit too, because we talked about this with Earth,
Mhm.
and I want to make sure we touch on it with each of the elements. Let's talk about for a second some deities,
Okay.
deities that are associated with air, because I know that's again another thing that people are looking for. Who do I call to when I'm working with air as far as deity? And I mean, I think the biggest one I can think of is going to be Odin. And I think it's because of the whole storm aspect with Odin and how I view storms a lot of the time as an air thing.
Not just storms, but Odin is also associated with air qualities like intelligence and written language. And his companions are two crows.
Right. So how about you, Layla? Who are deities you think of when you think of air?
Well, two of the big ones are Mercury and Uranus. Uranus, because that's my planet, that deity is air. And Mercury is very air. It's the communication. He's the air god. I also see the Dagda in his role as the sky father and father of speech is very air-like. Hathor as the goddess of the sky and of art and music. Nuit can be an air goddess because she is goddess of the night sky, the stars, and space. Hera fits because her domain includes the wind and sky, and one of her symbols is a peacock.
Zephyrus.
Yes, he's the Greek god of the west wind, and I remember his name because a zephyr is a type of wind.
Yep.
Some people also say fairies. The fairies and particular types of fairies called sylphs are also air fairies that people like to work with, and they'll say that they are associated with that element.
I've also seen people associate Lu with air.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Again, deities very much are not just one thing. You can
Right.
call on a deity and ask to work with the aspects of them that are related to your working, in this case, air, but you don't have to work with all of the elements that make them up. But you can call on different aspects of
I
them.
feel like most of them are multifaceted.
Yeah, like Zeus and Thor can also be considered air. The lightning thing would be a big reason why, but some people might say that's fire.
Now, let's just mention the elephant in the room. Okay. Wands, swords, swords, wands. We've had
North,
this discussion.
east.
Northeast. I understand that we all have different views on which direction air is. I view air in the east. I know people view air in the north.
Yeah, it just depends on your tradition, really. There's no wrong answer.
The important part is how you honor the element and not necessarily what quarter the element is in.
Yeah, if you know why you picked that quarter for the element,
It's all that
that's cool.
matters.
Yeah, that's
It's
fine.
all that matters.
But swords and wands. Now, the argument for some people is that swords are air because they cut through the air.
And that wands are fire because they burn.
That's right. They also say that swords are represented by air because people talk about a sharp wit or sharp as a tack, a keen intellect. So they say that that means that swords are air. Wands being fire because they burn. I
Yep.
haven't seen much other reasoning why wands are that action, that fire element. But
I'll be honest with you. I'm an East air wand type of
yeah.
girl.
Air is communication. And to
Yeah.
me, wands represent communication. There's talking sticks that get passed around. If
Yep.
you pick up a wand because you are a magician or a wizard or a witch, You're using it to cast a spell. You're using it to direct your words, your will. And I know people like to say that swords are communication, but when was the last time someone picked up a sword with the intent to talk?
Right. Right.
So swords are action. They're that fiery action. Sometimes they're the consequences of that action. And wands are air. But again, if you have a different viewpoint, as long as you know why you have that viewpoint, we're cool with it. That's fine.
Absolutely.
So, using different tools to represent an element is wonderful. And the reason you do that is to help get your brain, your subconscious, your magical brain, in the framework to recognize that element. So if you put everything around you that reminds you of air, you have wonderful incense going, maybe you have some light music in the
Some
background.
wind chimes.
Bells can all represent air. Maybe you have the color yellow or light pale colors, whites and yellows. Some people like pastel colors, anything light and pretty. Free flowing curtains, anything that makes you think air. Put that all around you. And then sit and have a little meditation and focus on your breath. We'll post a short air meditation that will go along with this episode as well. But I also have a spell with your breath that I could talk about.
I bet you do. Lay it on me, Layla.
All right. So, do you remember when I talked about how to feel energy by using the soap bubble imagery between your hands?
Yep. We all remember.
Good.
We've all practiced it.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Gold stars for everyone. So, we're going to use a similar type thing, but this is to learn how to push energy into something, to come up with energy that has a certain flavor and push it into something. So what you're going to do is hold up your hands, palm up in front of you, and concentrate on your palms until you can feel them kind of warm up just a little bit. Then you're going to put them so that they're palm to palm in front of you, about 2-3 inches apart, just like you did in the sensing energy.
Sounds an awful lot like Reiki to me, but keep going.
It is. It's very, very similar. Very similar. Reiki's all about raising energy, flavoring it a certain way, and pushing it toward
Directing
at
it.
people. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is a lot like that. I'm giving away Reiki secrets. I have no idea. I'm not certified. You are. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's why I'm
Anyway.
just letting you talk.
So put your hands together just a couple inches apart from each other. And instead of a mass of little bubbles like I had you envision before to feel that energy, now I want you to think of a time when you had just one big soap bubble between your hands, just one big one in between your hands.
Sometimes I actually visualize it as a bubblegum bubble
There you go. It could be a bubblegum bubble.
because in my mind I know that I've had a bubblegum bubble that big. Maybe
There you
that's
go.
why.
Yeah, so picture a big bubble, whether bubblegum, soap, whatever you want, but a nice big, one big round bubble between your hands, just sitting there nice and strong and beautiful. Then you're going to think of whatever energy you want. Pick a spell, Chelle, something you want to spell for.
Okay, how about a spell for prosperity?
All right, prosperity spell. So you're going to pull in energy for success and prosperity. So you get your mind all thinking thoughts about success and prosperity, and you feel solid in yourself, and you're still envisioning this bubble between your hands, but now you're pulling into your center, into your belly. Success, prosperity, money, doing good, feeling happy and secure in your life. And you're thinking all these things that mean success and prosperity to you. And once you've got that in your belly, all big and strong, breathe it into your lungs. Breathe in into your lungs all that energy and mix it up with all those feelings. And then blow it gently. Don't pop the bubble. Blow that energy into the bubble like you're blowing smoke into it. And it should be green for prosperity and success. And then just imagine that smoke, that green colored smoke swirling around inside that bubble as you blow all that energy into it. And then hold it there and imagine that energy swirling. Then raise that bubble above your head and pop it on top of your head and let the smoke fall all down around you. Now you've raised the energy of success and prosperity. You've directed it into the bubble, and then you've put it back into yourself to give yourself that blessing. You could also push that energy into a crystal or into something metal or something else so that you can hold on to it for later.
Or if you were going to say you were doing a spell or a ritual for someone else, you could direct it into a crystal or another object and give it to a person.
Yeah, or put it into that bubble and then pop it on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is really just an exercise for you to practice raising different types of energy into your breath. Flavor your breath, that energy of air, that life giving breath, flavor that with whatever energy you want to cast in your spell, and then blow it, literally direct it into that bubble in your hands, into your cupped hands, into a chalice, into a crystal. And then blow that breath that you have flavored with the energy you want for your spell into the item. And now you have that ready to direct so that you can push that energy out to the universe to work your will.
So not only are you working with the element and doing a ritual with and directed at the element, but you're also getting yourself practiced more in, energy development and energy directing.
A lot of people have a hard time working with it, but it's such an easy way to raise and direct energy. If you just do a little bit of breath work in a meditation, you can really feel that energy raising up. I just think it's a nice way, nice, easy way to get connected that people overlook sometimes.
I think that when I was a newbie witch, I don't know if that's the right term, but that's what I'm going to say. When I was a newbie witch, I think that I didn't take enough stock into breath work because I took breathing for granted, therefore kind of took breath work for granted. And I don't think it really dawned on me how important doing breath work was legit until I had two kids.
There you go.
No, but I mean, right from when you're in labor, they're like, breathe, breathe, and
Yeah.
you kind of learn, you're like, oh, there's something to this breath thing. And, I think that's what really, I think childbirth is what kind of gave, in my mind, validity to breath work.
Makes a lot of sense. If you can control your breath, you can calm yourself down.
Yep.
You can hype yourself up.
Yep.
You can help control pain. I mean, there's so much that you can do if you can work with your breath really well. People who are very good at meditation know that breath work is a huge part of that.
Right.
So, we mentioned chanting earlier as a way to work with air, and singing and chanting are a form of breath work. Listening to music, even if you don't sing, is another way to connect to the air element. And listening to music while journaling, because communication, writing, and words are really good ways to work with air. And we talked a little bit about journaling.
We talk way too much about journaling.
Well, we're going to talk a little more because journaling and getting those thoughts out, like you mentioned earlier in the episode, that thoughts, thinking
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
all also air. And sometimes you need to get that out. Sometimes you just need to do some journal
Writing.
pages, just get those pages out in the morning and just write, 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 write. And that can be a really great way to help bring clarity, which is another air quality. You can bring that clarity and that
Yeah.
clearness to yourself before you do a working. If you're just able to write it all down, write all the things that are cluttering your brain and just get it on paper and get it out. It's a simple spell in and of itself.
Sometimes communicating could be communicating with your spirit guides. Just because you write it out doesn't mean you have to give it to anyone in particular. You could give those writings to your spirit guides to read.
Yes. And spirit work, working with
Yep.
ancestors and
Yep.
spirit work is all air. This is all about air. If it's communication, if it's digital communication, if you're working
Going through
online,
the airwaves.
that's right. It's all air. This podcast is
Air.
air. So if you're sitting there, you've got some incense going, you're listening to our podcast, you've got a nice warm cup of tea, and you're pulling tarot cards to journal, air, 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 air. It's all air energy.
Or if they're listening to our Brushwood 2025 playlist,
That's true.
air.
Well, there's a lot of elements there, but overall, that is a good playlist. I do find myself putting that on quite often.
I do too, actually.
Now, speaking of our Brushwood playlist, I do believe that the Brushwood radio used to, in the off season, just play random music. But I believe now they have recorded shows like ours, and they're doing those shows, the pre-recorded Brushwood radio spots during the Sirius Rising and Sankofa festivals are all going to be played on rotation on Brushwood radio.
You should put a link up to that.
I will. I believe they're also going to start having talk shows and a few things like that. And you might hear a couple of your favorite podcasters pop up on there now and again.
Those crazy witches.
Those crazy witches. So, so again, I will put an air meditation as a companion to this episode as well.
Now, I did have a little tidbit here about air can assist with past life regressions and kind of connecting with maybe the past lives that you have had. I know that ancestor work is a part of air, but sometimes look at your own ancestry, and this is a good time to do past life regression. Where have I been in other lives? I mean, I know that where I've been in this life, where have I been in other lives? And this is a good time to kind of tune into that or get with somebody, meet with somebody, maybe a hypnotherapist or whatnot that can assist you with past life regressions. But I think anything really to do with spirit very much is an air thing, whether you're communicating with your past spirit, ancestor spirit, whatever the case may be, air. It's all air.
Well, my fascination with meditation definitely led me down the hypnosis path, and I did get certified in hypnotherapy, and I am also certified in past life regression. And I have done some very interesting sessions with people doing past lives. But I would usually associate hypnosis and past life regression more with water because of its relationship with the subconscious and deep memories. But I can see how you'd link it to air as well by seeing spirits and spirit realm as air. Communicating with your past life could also be seen as air. So it's one of those mixture of elements occasions.
It all seems to kind of go together.
Yeah, hypnosis and meditation, anything with the mind like that is associated with air. Hypnosis a little bit multi-elemental. It can also be associated with water because of the subconscious and that
I
deep
was just thinking that
subconscious.
with past life regression too, but I,
Yeah.
I still very much think it's one of those crossovers, air, water.
Past life regression is so fascinating. And have you ever done a past life regression?
I have had someone guide me through it in the past. I've only done it once before, and I feel like I've told you this before, but can we both say we're not shocked that this person told me I had been a princess in a former life? I'm
I am
just
not shocked at all.
because I surely was not shocked. But yeah, I was actually told that I was a princess in a former life in an area that is currently known as Russia. But I would like to delve into this again some other time with you and have you just take me down that path and see where I have been.
I know, I am very surprised. I mean, I have done past life regressions for other people in our community before, but for
You and
whatever
I have
reason,
we've never had that
yeah,
conversation.
we never have. And I'm kind of shocked. I would love to do that with you sometime. We'll have to see if the Russian princess thing comes up. But some of the things that come out from that really help people. You know, when I've done past life regressions with people before, it usually has brought up something that is related to issues that they're having in their life right now.
Literally something that they're continuing working on from a past life and they still are working on it in this life.
Yeah, so sometimes lessons and working on lessons, can be part of that working with air energy. And finding things about yourself from a past life can often help someone work through blockages or issues that they're having in this life. That's one of the things that just fascinates me is how often maybe the way that they died in their past life, or maybe their occupation or something that happened to them in their past life relates to things that are relevant in this life. Now, I'm not saying that everything is related to your past lives because most certainly is not.
But it's known to happen on occasion.
It's surprising how often these correlations will happen and how talking about it can really help people in this lifetime work through it. And again, that communication thing, that's very air-like.
We as humans are kind of like onions, and I look at past life regression as digging down to the next layer and then to the next layer, because all of the people that you have been in the past really do create and make up who you are now. And I want to know, where have I been and what have I done that has created this hot mess?
Another interesting way to do ancestor work is to also do deep meditation or hypnotherapy work with past life regression, where you
Yep.
can talk to your ancestors. Where, maybe it's not you in a past life, but maybe you do some hypnotherapy work where you go back and you call your ancestors and you have a conversation with them.
Right.
That can be very helpful sometimes for people who have difficult ancestors. I'm a firm believer that once people pass, they become connected with more of their oversoul, that they become connected with more of who they have been through many lifetimes and all of the
Right.
lessons that they have learned. So very rarely have I encountered someone, unless they've just recently passed, who is still a dick once they've been dead for a little while, you know? Even if you have problematic ancestors, you are more than likely going to be able to connect to them on some level.
They're less dicks
They're
now.
less dicks now after they've been dead for a minute because they've incorporated all those lessons together.
They
And
got
so,
grounded in all that earth
right,
energy. We're horrible.
we're terrible. But communicate with your ancestors, communicate with the spirits. And by doing meditation and hypnotherapy, a lot of times that can facilitate that communication that can help you in this lifetime.
Can I just give a left turn side note here? Our sixth sense of humor is why we are the bestest of friends,
Yes, that among many other things. I
among many
absolutely
other
love you.
things.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
our sick, twisted sense of humor definitely is a
Doesn't hurt,
contributor.
does not hurt at all.
I think maybe probably the best way for folks to just take a step back and honor air and do some workings with air would be to just maybe be cognizant of of your breath. That's probably the best first step I could say is be cognizant of your breath. Breathing is everything.
How often have you been in a bad mood or been all scattered and someone says, take a breath?
How many times have you told me that?
Yeah, right. And you take that deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and you immediately, that calm, that relaxation, you
The
start to feel a
shoulders
little bit better.
release. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking that breath and just being right there that can help center you and help bring you right back to this moment. So, breath is so important.
So next, what are we going to talk about next, Layla?
Next week, I believe we will be talking about fire.
Fire, 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 fire.
Fuego, everyone's favorite element. I think every other person at Brushwood, now I'm not complaining, I think it's awesome, but I think like every third person at Brushwood had some version of fire as a name. It's a very popular pagan name.
Hellfire sounds way too close to hellfire.
There you
So,
go. But yeah, a lot of fire names.
well, I guess we're going to dive into fire next time and we're going to see if we get burned.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Back on the Broomstick. Please like, subscribe, leave us some reviews. It really helps the show out, helps people find us, and it makes Shell and I super happy.
And for the love of the lady, send us mail, people. Again, you will be entered into the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle deck drawing if you send us something in the mail postmarked between August 8th and October 1st. And again, you can find us at Back on the Broomstick, P.O. Box 106, Salem, Mass. 01970. And boy, I love going to that P.O. box and finding stuff. I love it so much.
I love when you do too, because then you send me pictures. And
I
it's
do.
awesome. And also a big, huge thank you to our benefactors. All of you wonderful people who keep this show running are automatically entered in the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle giveaway.
Send us some mail and you'll get a dual entry, folks.
Thank you all again for listening to this air episode on our Elemental series. We will see you next week for
Fire!
Be wise, be wicked.
And keep it witchy, folks.